Welcome everyone to the first webinar of the day with Maybank. I'm Eileen, an Executive Counselor in UKEC Careers Office, and I'll be your MC for today. We'll kickstart today's session in the first webinar with Maybank to speak on is success a destination or a journey? The session will start off with a presentation followed by a Q&A session. So throughout the session, if you have any questions, do put them in the chat box and our moderator will be addressing these questions later. I would like to introduce our moderator for today, Hans Sukani, a senior analyst in investment banking. Without further ado, I'll pass on to our moderator.
Thank you, Irene. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very good afternoon from Singapore to folks back home in Malaysia. And to those just waking up in the early hours of a British sunrise, a very good morning to you all. My name is Hans. I'm currently a senior analyst at Maybank IBG, and it is my pleasure to be your moderator for today. I started off my career in Maybank as a global Maybank apprentice after my tertiary education. And I am so excited to be here speaking to the future Hanses of the world. Now, I'm sure you all can't wait to meet and interact with our panel of speakers, but before we begin, quick housekeeping. Remind all of you that we have a chat box open, and at any point in time during the session, feel free to drop your questions and we will be addressing them later. Success. The entire human history and evolution depend on this one word. However, what is success? Is it an enchanted territory for some, or is it a path to something bigger and meaningful? We have with us today the three most successful people in the banking industry who will be sharing their experiences and perspectives. Without further ado, we will dive straight into the session and I will be introducing our panelists. First off, we have Dr. Nora Manov. She's the forefront of Maybank's efforts to humanize financial services. She's the Group Chief Human Capital Officer and member of the Group Exco of Maybank. In addition to chairing several national level committees and holding several board memberships, she's also an adjunct professor appointed by the College of Business, UUM, and UKM. In her quest to making a difference towards women empowerment, Dr. Nora also mentors and is the executive sponsor for the Women Council of Maybank, and a mentor in the ICAW-led Women in Leadership program. Welcome, Dato.
Thank you, Hans.
Next, I am honored to welcome Dr. John Chong. He's the Group CEO of Maybank's Community Financial Services. Dr. John has over 25 years of regional financial service experiences, encompassing consumer, commercial, investment banking, wealth management. He also leads Group CFS business growth and strategic direction across the region. Before taking on his current role, he was the previous CEO of Maybank Investment Banking Group and the CEO of Maybank Investment Bank Berhad. Welcome, Dr. John.
Thank you, Hans. Hello, everyone.
All right. Now, last but not least, I would like to welcome Dr. Muzaffar Hisham to the virtual stage. Dr. Mus is currently the Group CEO of Maybank's global banking business. But when I joined, he was the Group CEO of Islamic banking. With over 20 years of Islamic conventional and investment banking business, Dr. Mus is here to lead Maybank's global banking business to the next stage. Dr. Mus, how are you, sir?
Hello, Hans. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Now that we have all our panelists, let's move on to our main segment today. For the benefit of our esteemed panelists, our audience today are mostly fresh graduates, much like myself 6 years ago. And these talents are eagerly awaiting to join the workforce. Just like me when I was younger, I'm sure they have questions about success and what it means to strive for success in the working industry. Now, I'm currently going through the list of participants, and I'm sure most of them have the same thoughts that I did. If you did, please comment yes in the chat box. Now, for centuries, humankind has been chasing success. Most believe that being in a position of power is the ultimate endgame. But really, is it? Being the leaders of the largest financial institution of Malaysia, our panelists could provide some unexpected lessons and some key takeaways. Now, I have a quick question for our panelists. Was being part of the C-suite always your career plan, or was it something that came along the way as an opportunity? To kick things off, Maybe I'll start ladies first. Dr. Nora, could I get you to weigh in on this?
Okay, sure, Hans. And you've been very kind in introducing us. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning, very good afternoon. No, the answer is no. I never planned, from the young age of 24, to be, and neither, in any part of my progression did I, actually sit down and say, yeah, I want to be a C-suite or I want to be a CEO, right? Never occurred to me, Hans, never occurred to me. And I think to your point on success, right? It is a journey. It is a journey. For me, I consider, reflecting back, I consider every part of my career as I progress successful, right? Even when I was a teacher, right? I considered it a success when my students say that, when I see my students doing well and getting on ahead into good schools. So I would say, look at it as a journey, especially in the current times. Now, what times are we in, right? We are in the times of reinvention, reinventing ourselves, right? Individually, workforce, workplace, organizations, industry. My God, right? I was just, as I was getting ready just now, I caught on CNA, the Singapore channel, right? Reporting that 21% of under 32-year-olds in Singapore are suffering from mental health issues. So I would encourage all of you, don't be paranoid about, I need to be successful. What is it, right? What is success? The fact that you yesterday achieved something, right? You helped somebody, that's success. So how about that for the start, Hans?
Thank you, Dr. Nora. That was really wonderful to hear. And I think, yes, it's important to understand that success is different to everyone. Dr. Mus, you've been in the banking industry for a very long time. Has striving for, as we say, the corner office been on your mind at a young age, or was it something you decided later on in your career?
Once again, thank you, Gadwan and Hans, for having me and my colleagues here today. I think when I reflect back to the question, when I started off, I wasn't quite sure actually what I want to do, and I had this notion that the idea of banking, it's an interesting job, and naively, to be quite candid, the idea of you work and you earn the money and you enjoy life, so to speak, and I use the word naively. I started off in that sort of sense, quite happy-go-lucky to a certain extent, and start to enjoy it actually. But you got to bear in mind the context when. Better not say what sort of year we started, but then you know the age. But at that time, Asia and so forth were growing. Everything was buzzing. So it was some exciting times before the Asian financial crisis, which a wake-up call. But I would like to live to a point in that journey, as we. To all of you here, going to the next phase of your life, the working life, or some of you may continue studying and so forth. I would like to use 3 words that usually may need to resonate it a bit as you go along, which helped me along the way from my early days in. Well, now it's called investment banking. During John and my time, it's called merchant banking, and so forth. And eventually going into Islamic banking and then back to the wholesale banking. But the three words that I would really encourage for all of us from time to time to look at is number one is, of course, being patient. If I think some of you may be familiar, a very famous entrepreneur called Gary Vaynerchuk, or they call it Gary V. And I follow him to some of his programs and reading through it. And he always say, look, currently at all of your age, be patient. As long as the journey, be patient, but don't stop the hard work. Don't stop the studying. That's something that we always could continue. So be patient. Number two, you need to be aware and aware of the environment, aware about yourself, and partly in that awareness process, from time to time, you need to reflect as well, monthly or quarterly or yearly. That would help to continue that journey and resonate the direction that all of us would go. I do that till today. The patience, the aware, and the reflect. But I still believe in the old-fashioned way, Hans, and to all my colleagues, is that there's no shortcut. There's always a hard work and study. That's the main ingredient, I think, to all of us in that sense. So yeah, I'll start off with that, Hans. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Mus, for sharing that. Dr. John, I have to come to you, but before that, I'm pretty sure you're well aware, within circles in Maybank, you are known as the evergreen Maybanker. Having been in Maybank for close to 30 years now, I'm quite jealous. You have more hair than me after 30 years, while I've lost all mine in 6. But how have you set your benchmarks of success, and has this plan of achieving the C-suite always been there?
Well, again, thank you, Hans, and thank you, Graduan, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and speak to all of you again. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. For me, it's been a journey. I mean, when I first joined Maybank, at the time it was called ASEAN Bankers, or Maybank Investment Bank in those days, back in 1993, definitely the intention of a C-suite was not even in my mind. It wasn't there at all. I think my focus at that time when I joined was to learn as much as possible as I can. I was thankful to be able to join Maybank. I was thankful to be able to be a part of the merchant bank arm of Maybank. And as Dr. Mus has said earlier, we came back because there's phenomenal growth opportunities in Southeast Asia at the time. And frankly, there still is. So the intention was to learn as much as I can, and to, in merchant banking, to do as much transactions, to just do as much projects as I can, and learn as I go along. And I'm fortunate when I started in Maybank in those days, and even to today, I managed to work with many of my colleagues and seniors and bosses who have trained me, who have mentored me very well, who have supervised me, has taught me to be a professional, and how to be a professional, in any organization field. So I think that has been my guidance throughout this time. So I think for me, again, I agree with Dr. Mus. There's no shortcuts. A lot of it's hard work. And when you start off in your career, it is very important for the first 5 to 10 years to build your foundation, to build that substance. Just like you're building anything, or you build a house, for sustainability, for long-term growth in your career, you need to be patient to build that foundation first and learn everything you can. And today, I can tell you, 29, 30 years later, I am still learning. And before I was in the merchant bank or investment bank, another thing I want to tell all the graduates today, I started off in an accounting firm, audit firm in Deloitte. It was called Deloitte in those days, for 2 years. And I found that after a while, audit wasn't for me. So don't be concerned if you find that immediately when you do something, you find that maybe this is not the right path for you, and pivot quickly as soon as possible. But after that, I've stayed on with Maybank for the last 29 years, as you said. And so to me, get there, learn, build your foundation, build your substance, and then from there on, focus on doing well. And then you will go on from step by step as you go along. Thank you. Maybe I'll stop there and pass it back to you, Hans.
Thank you, Dr. John. Now that was a great share, and I think it provides me with a wonderful segue to pivot back to Dr. Nora, Dr. Mus and Dr. John, who have discovered banking as they're calling. You, in fact, have practiced auditing and finance. You went into teaching, lecturing, consulting as well, and in multiple industries, including telecommunications. How did you then discover that banking, and in particular Maybank, was your true calling?
Okay. Yeah, you've summarized my lifetime. I would love to say that it's part of a plan, but I would be lying. Hans, I never planned to go into banking, to be honest. You're right, I was in telecommunications at the time that I got an offer from Standard Chartered Bank to join them, right? Even then, it took me, a good 6 to 7 months to accept because I was having a ball in telecommunications. It was a joint venture between a Malaysian organization and an American company called US West. I'm sure you all have heard of it. It's one of the baby bell companies. I was surrounded by about 60 managers from US West seconded into the organization, learning from them. Learning is, you're going to hear from all three of us, right? I think one of the secret ingredients, if all of you want to know, right, about being successful, I think the most common denominator is we are learners, right? But anyway, to my point earlier, I was having a ball, and when the offer came to me, I said no, right? But they were so persistent. So thankfully they were persistent. I don't say this with arrogance, because I wouldn't be where I am if they didn't make me the offer, right? But it took me 6 months, 7 months, Hans, because I was enjoying what I was doing. But here's what I want to share with all of you, right? Grab opportunities, okay? That's why plan, yeah, you can plan, but if you are rigid and you refuse to entertain any other options, then I think you're going to be depriving yourself of a lot of what life would throw at you, right? So I didn't want it. I can't claim to be as smart as I am today as I was back then, right? So it didn't, finally it dawned on me that, hey, hang on a minute, let me take a look again at what they're offering. Okay, so honestly, it was, I was at a stage of my life where I was starting a family, right? Just starting a family. So yeah, the material world is important, right? So what the banking sector would give me access to is a whole lot of great benefits and so forth, which I needed. I was buying a house, I was buying a car, I was starting a family, as I said, which telecommunications then didn't quite give me, although it's high tech. So, actually my history, I was with Intel previously as well. So I have been in high tech industries, right? For a good portion of my career. So I enjoyed that kind of environment, but the pool of materiality, of material, was actually the reason why I moved into banking. Absolutely no regrets. I found my calling. Yes, I found my calling in banking, right? It's actually full circle, because like Dr. John, I also, as you said, right, I was with Tush Ross. I was with Tush Ross in London, and I was also in, then I think HRM was also owned by Tush Ross or something like that, right? So yeah, with HRM as well for a while. So it's full circle, it's going full circle. But like I said, absolutely no regrets. But it was interesting because I have a gentleman to thank for. His name is Andrew Hunter. He flew from London, not for me, but he had something to do in Singapore. But then he heard about the fact that they had made me an offer Central had made me an offer and I was not accepting for about a good 5 months. So he decided to take a flight to KL and invited me for dinner, right? So I remember having dinner with him at the Shangri-La in KL, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm this little nobody. And this gentleman flew all the way from London, and he was the head of group HR and I think it was strategy at that time, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so to be honest, I accepted the job because of that. So when you join organizations, you also need to look for leaders who really truly care, not just talk, right?
Wow.
Again, I was nobody, right?
I love it. I love it. I feel, yes, it really highlights the importance of having good leaders, good mentors in your life that correct your path as you move on. And personally, this brings me back when I was a student as well. The pull and attraction to the banking industry, I won't lie, was seeing people in suits, right? And showing up, dressing the part, pulling that success. Dato Mus, you've been around with CIMB Investment, with HSBC as well. And I mean, you've tried Islamic banking. In fact, try is not the right word. You've brought the Maybank's Islamic banking platform to compete on a global level. And now you've set your sights on global banking. How's that been? What has been your motivator in this journey?
Thank you, Hans. Before that, I just wanted to just point a note. Banking now is so wide. So it's not just the old horses like me and Dr. John and Nora going to the banking side. It's so wide in the sense that there's various talents and expertise that we need to look at. Communication, strategic side of it, human capital, managing people, and even engineers looking at the IT and so forth. So it's very exciting times in banking. When we sat down with our human capital team and so forth, building up our team, you know, we look at quite a wide sort of array of folks around. So I just want to put a note that, you know, banking now, as we have evolved over the last 20 years, becoming what we call a universal bank, it is very wide of sort of business. I think to your question about the Islamic banking and coming back to the wholesale side, as I say, when I was evolving myself, I've always asked the point about, you know, why do we do this actually? What keeps you motivated and what do you want to do, right? I won't lie, the fact that, you know, the you know, profits and the money, it is a result of it, right? And I think I'm a true capitalist in that sense. I do enjoy it, but the fact of the matter is, players like Maybank or the financial institutions, we are part and parcel of the society and the economy. That part makes me excited. That part, when you wake up in the morning, when you read in the news or the work that you've done with your team and so forth, and suddenly you say, look, we were part of that. We were part of that highway that we were looking at the funding part. We were part of the policy that we were looking together with the government in that sense. So to me, that was something which is interesting, that you not only in terms of you know, work, but the joy of the impact, as cliche as it may sound, to the society. So when I was looking at the Islamic banking, in fact, Dr. John can also resonate this, you know, it was actually the growing market of the Islamic capital market. They call it the bond market and then the sukuk market. And quite frankly, the way I started Islamic banking, when my boss was saying there's a big regulation coming out from the Securities Commission, can you review it and see what we can do? And I was saying, oh my God, okay, what do we need to do? And then the more you study and understand the concept of it, the Sharia banking, and the interesting for me was an opportunity to innovate, an opportunity to do some interesting stuff, not just the typical banking where we talk about credit or the mergers, acquisition, and so forth. So that has sort of evolved. And as I said, eventually from time to time, and I got the opportunity to involve in the retail world when I in Maybank Islamic, you see the impact to the community. And I'm so glad when I came to join Maybank, the retail banking is branded as community financial services, where Dr. John now is leading, right? The word community, that's part that were just exciting. So I think the key takeaway to all of us here, again, when I commented about a reflection, do take a look at the question of why. There's a famous University of Columbia, I think all of you may have heard of him, called Simon Sinek. He had a famous book about why, right? We know what we do, we know how we do it. The question is why we do it. And do look it up, but there's some interesting reference that I summarized just now. Thank you very much, Hans. Thank you.
Indeed, I think, thank you, Dr. Mus, for sharing. It is important for us to remember the whys, and as we go about it, I mean, even those in their uni now, struggling sometimes. I know personally I did when I took up my first year. I was like, why did I pick up accounting of all subjects, right? And it's important to go back and sort of address those. I'm quickly going through some of the Q&A, and I've picked up one. Dr. John, I think this would be great for you to weigh on. As part of the C-suite executive roles, how do you set the strategic direction of your particular pillar or organization? You've come from investment banking, which, or merchant banking, as Dr. Mus has mentioned, and it's been a bit more traditional. Moving into CFS, we've seen the drive towards digital. You've had to champion the new apps, the new programs. How has that been in terms of a strategic standpoint?
Oh, thank you, Hans, for the question. I think maybe I take a step back to talk about the role of investment banking or merchant banking to now CFS. I think for me, after 25 years of doing investment banking, and given the opportunity to move into CFS has been a fantastic opportunity for me. I think after 25 years of assisting, as you know, companies to raise funds either to capital markets, bank market, and so on and so forth, equity markets, and now moving into a different segment. And that's the beauty of banking, is what Dr. Mus has mentioned, is that we deal with so many segments, not just within Malaysia. As you know, Maybank is a regional bank. We're in all 10 countries in Southeast Asia, actually, but dealing in all the segments, from the man in the street right down to the large corporates, the GLCs, even countries, so to speak. We are doing transactions for countries, and we get that kind of exposure. And I think for anyone that's graduating, and that's the reason when you graduate, if you want a platform that where you can have a learning experience throughout all sectors, all types of financial instruments, I mean, banking would be it. So that's number one. But having said that, when I moved into CFS, as we call it, Community Financial Services, I think the difference was that it's now looking at the retail segment, the SME segment, the middle corporates or the commercial banking corporates, the business banking segments. And these are important segments, especially if you see in the pandemic over the last 2 years, how they've been impacted. So the strategy at that time for the last year or two has been basically how we can support these SMEs that are not just, as you know, basically one of the largest employers in Malaysia, but the largest employers in all the markets that we operate in Southeast Asia. How can we support them? Tie them through the next 2 years during the pandemic, 2020, 2021, right? How can we help the man on the street who is working, to continue so that he can put food on the table for his children? And I can tell you, that last 2 years have actually validated my own personal move to CFS. It's been the most meaningful for me, frankly. So that's how the strategy was, frankly, over the last 2 years. It has no doubt the COVID has been an impact on major influence on how we do things over the last 24 months, right? But I mean, kudos to the team, my colleagues in the bank who have done superbly. They've stood up to support the community where they serve. They've stood up to support their customers. At the same time, the last 2 years facing changes themselves, like their own families were at risk, themselves they were at risk, but still doing what they were doing. So managing to carry out and roll out also repayment assistance. So the strategy for the last 2 years, frankly, was to see what we can do to support all our customers in the region. At the same time, because, as you know, the learning curve for digital accelerated, especially over the last 2 years. There were a lot of things we couldn't do because of the lockdowns. So we had to roll out things like our SME digital financing, our M2, our May, as you know, the May app, so on and so forth. This was all part and parcel to support and provide that customer journey, customer experience, and to keep everyone safe. So I think this will continue. You've heard about M25 plan. This digital or being pervasive digital will be very much a part of our strategy moving forward over the next 5 years. But I just want to make one point clear. The strategy has to be clear, simple, and executable. Any strategy that you cannot execute is no execution. Basically, to me, it's a dissolution. So you have to have strategy that you can cascade down. You can understand, people can roll it out quickly, and you can be. At the same time, you must be nimble under the current times that we're in, because no one was prepared for this pandemic, right? So you must need to be agile. You need to be nimble. So you need to be able to pivot quickly if the situation calls for it. So maybe I'll stop here, Hans, and pass it back to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. John. I think, yes, you brought up a great point about the pandemic. It's definitely impacted not just how we think about things from a strategic standpoint, but also the way we've worked. And this pivots me to the next question here from Muhammad Akif. The notion of work-life balance has obviously been impacted by COVID. And, if you enjoy work, but you still work really long hours, and banking as an industry is notorious. I mean, we have two stalwarts here coming from merchant banking with horror tales of hours more than 12 a day. I will perhaps get Dr. Nora to weigh in on this. Talk about work-life balance, or as we call it in Maybank, work-life integration. How do you see this moving forward?
Happy to, Hans. Absolutely. All of you have heard of the Great Resignation, right? Yeah, and that's a COVID lesson, right? You're right, Hans. Of course, there's been a lot of pain, a lot of lives lost, and sufferings with COVID-19. But I am always glass half full, right? And I always see silver linings. And one of the silver linings is we've rediscovered humans, what being humans mean, right? One of the benefits for many of us is we've actually rediscovered family members, right? Being at home, right? For such a substantial amount of time, never before in the last 1 or 2 decades for many of us, right? So rediscovering what being human is all about, rediscovering that the value of relationships, of network, having a network, of surviving together, because that's a huge lesson that you can't just take care of yourself, right? You are connected. We are connected. We found that. So, but we're not, what we also discovered is we're not just connected human to human, we are so connected with our environment, isn't it? And whatever the theory is, but zoonotics is one very strong science behind COVID. And that's because we poked into the territory where humans had never been before, right? So the virus jumped. So all of this, in one word, is about sustainability, right? And we do need to ensure that I mentioned reinventing just now. We do need to, and we did, for many of us, hopefully, thankfully, alhamdulillah, right? We did have time to reflect, being locked in our homes, right? We reflected back and said, hang on a minute, right? There are many people who've shared, right? I mean, if social media is, flush with all of this, right? Where they said, hey, I've rediscovered that, I don't want to be a rat in the rat race, right? There's more to life. And I value my family. I value my friends, my neighbors, right? So I'm not going to be dragged into that sort of environment anymore. Now that is perfect for organizations and shareholders actually it's perfect because we've been insane, according to Einstein. Okay, we've been insane. We've been trying to do the same things, the same management models, the same management tools, the same processes. Every year we try to tweak it again, tweak it and delusionally thinking that it's going to be better. And then we retrain people on the same things. Hans, we're insane, right? So there you go. COVID-19 has forced us to truly understand how and what it looks like to have tech and digitalization truly augment human performance. There you are. We're in one of them, right? I mean, again, prior to COVID, we would never think of having this session like this and have less CO2 emissions, isn't it? But again, yeah, we've rediscovered. But we've been learning. It's not totally everybody becoming reclusive and hide in your homes. We go out when we need to, but we have a choice of staying in if we want to. So choice is a lesson of COVID-19 as well, right? And it is given to us because of digitalization, because we have the tools. We can, right? So Maybank, now I'm going to plug this in, okay, everybody. I say this not with arrogance, but I say this with a lot of excitement and anxiety at the same time, right? Because being a leader is not easy, right? But we have started toying and testing, having a flex workforce. Hans, you know this, right? Right? And we actually rolled out our flex workforce policy over 5 years ago, right? And then we are very opportunistic, positively opportunistic. The year COVID-19 hit the world, 2020, we rolled out, we got our board approval for official work from home, right? And that's work from home, guys. It's not lockdown, okay? Because some people may freak out and say, oh, I'm going to be stuck at home. You're not, right? So flexible workforce, having the choice of earning the best that you can. You see, what's stopping you from getting your first million in your first 3, 4, 5 years, right? I did not, Datuk John did not, probably Datuk Mus did not, right? In our first 2 to 3 years. Why? Because we've been using a different model. Today, there is a different model for you to choose, right? And Maybank offers that too. You can have a 2-day work week, you can have a 3-day work week, it depends, right? And organizations have to test it as well. So again, COVID-19 lesson is do not be insane, do not still insist on old models or models that no longer derive the best for shareholders, right? You can talk to cows come home about getting costs down. But as I was talking to my Malaysian Employer Federation Council members, right? Let's not just talk about SMEs having a problem if we enforce the 1,500 ringgit minimum wage. Let's talk about how to help them, advise them to get their jaw healthy, isn't it? That is more sustainable. And we're supposed to have equal opportunity, bring people out of poverty. So those are the conversations. Now, very quickly before I hand over, I want to plug in again as well that's what banking is all about. I want to expand on what Datuk John and Datuk Mus was saying just now. Okay, very, very detailed, right? They gave real examples. Now, we believe that we are, and I believe that we are in a business of financial well-being, because financial well-being ensures a harmonious, healthy, everybody, is taken care of. So that really is what banking has to be. Gates said in the 80s, right? Who needs banks? He is so right? They need banking transactions, but even banking transactions, payments and so forth, you've got new entrants and unfamiliar competitors and so forth. So you have no choice. We have no choice. We have to reinvent. So you can hear, hopefully, the passion from the three of us. I'm talking to the audience, right? Hans is the four of us, actually. Hans is us. And, you know, if you want to choose an organization, you have to choose one that talks about and gives you real examples like this, right? Because talk is cheap as well, right? So we are willing to test. We are willing to try, as Dr. John said just now. And we are living the digital, age really, really seriously. In that, it's fine if it's not a success, right? We'll pivot and learn and do something better, right? But we are focused on our mission, which is the humanizing of financial services, of making sure that people are financially well, right? Another COVID lesson for all of us. Okay, Hans.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nora, for sharing that. I think it's been wonderful, the indispensable and unexpected lessons that at least I've got to hear from our leaders today. And if I can summarize, one of the unexpected outcomes from COVID has been that angle of choice. It's important to build that foundation right. And of course, what is needed is hard work to really bring that success home. I think in the interest of time, we will be addressing one last question that I've picked up. I open this to the floor, and the panelists have talked about hard work, but sometimes we can put in as much as we want, all the effort, the time and sweat, but the outcome is something beyond our control. Personally, this hits home really hard. I can think of many times as students who are our guests and audience, you have studied, you've put in the long hours, but sometimes the question paper comes out and it's not in your control. In our careers as well, in banking, we can work very hard, aim for the right pitch, put in all that effort, but sometimes it's beyond us. I open it to our panelists. What are your thoughts in situations like these, and how do you pull through?
So who's going first?
I feel I've gone with ladies first quite a lot, so maybe Dr. Mus, can I get your views on this?
Right. I feel that way all the time. So it's not new to all of you. No, seriously. Sometimes you got to see how you define success, or how do you define your deliverables as well. I have a quick word to say. You got to look at perspective. Sometimes 1 + 1 may not equal to 2, but the journey of that 1 + 1 is the exciting part. So don't underestimate the journey and the work that you've put in, be it in your studies and so forth. The outcome, it can come to what you want, and I always say you can put the 110% effort, and then you leave it to faith to certain extent, it can surprisingly be in your favor or not. But always look at the perspective of the journey that you've put in, even as you mentioned just now, Hans, when you study or you do your paper. But I can assure you that if you look at the journey of you putting the effort of doing that, in this example, doing the paper, if you reflect back, I think there's a lot of things that it can come out to do the next thing and move forward on that. And that's part and parcel of, to some extent, learning the mistakes. I always have this rule. You learn from your mistake, but also don't repeat them again. You can repeat once, but don't repeat them twice. But move on, and I think we are humans. We are going to get derailed from time to time. We are going to get disappointment. If you don't get disappointment, frustrated, then we're not human. So we need to pick that up. And as I mentioned just now, be patient, look at awareness, and reflect. So I just wanted to put that point, Hans. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Mus. And yes, I think a little bit of faith goes a long way. Due to time constraints, I'm gonna mark this as the end of our Q&A. But if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to our Instagram profile at My Roaring Careers, or connect with any of our leaders on LinkedIn. Now, without further ado, I think this is the moment all our participants have been waiting for. We want to see who's walked out with the much coveted Rimao Pass and will be joining us and our panel of speakers today to ask that one important question. Cue drum roll. Okay, to those who don't know what the Rimao Pass is, it's essentially a challenge that saw our participants going through a series of questions, obstacles to secure an opportunity to interact with our esteemed panelists here today. I will allow our Rimao Pass winner to ask one question, and it is free to be directed to any of our panel members. With that, the winner of the Rimao Pass is Zanina Zarif. Can I please welcome you to the virtual stage?
Hello.
Hi, Zanina. Congratulations so much. I know this is a great opportunity, something I would have really wanted when I was a fresh graduate. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much. And first and foremost, hello and assalamualaikum. Good morning and good afternoon to our special panels, Datuk Nora, Datuk Muzaffar, and Datuk John as well. And of course, to our moderators and to our dear participants. Now, before we start with the Q&A, I would like to introduce myself. I am Zanina. You can also address me as Nina or Zanina, whichever you like. And I'm currently studying in UITM in Puncak Alam, majoring in international business. Now, without further ado, I would like to ask a question. Perhaps my dear panelists can share your perspectives and your point of view. Okay, so now we know that humans are primarily guided by a set of core values and mindsets. So Gen Z, as I am, has been taught to take the shortest and quickest route to our destination rather than a scenic path to be considered, and rather than a destination. With my decision, so my question is, if success is a journey rather than a destination, would my decision to take the longer but more scenic path be considered as diversion? Or would it be effective to take the quickest but monotonous way to achieve my designated destination? So yeah, that's my question.
So John.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. Hi Zarina, how are you? Thank you for the question and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
For me personally, it's not whether you take the scenic route or how long the journey is. The question, I believe, is what you do while you're at this, what you do while you're there. I think that's the key point. So you can be in a particular position or place for 10 years, 5 years, 30 years. The question is, are you learning as you go along? I think that's the key thing. So for me personally, and I have to talk from my own personal experience, it's a journey. And I've been with the bank, Dato' Moses said, for a long time. So about 29 years. And this is my 29, in fact, we're going to my 30th year. And believe it or not, from the day I started to today, I am still learning. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you heard earlier, that my whole plan when I came in was to focus on learning as much as I could. And I still am. So from starting off in merchant banking, and then within merchant banking, because within Maybank, there's so many parts of the bank that you can learn from. So from merchant banking, learning global banking, where Dato' Moses is leading today, now going into consumer, SME, corporate lending, all these sort of things, even virtual banking, wealth management. This is a continuous learning. So for me, at the end of the day, is what you want to be. So you have a personal development where ultimately I want to be a wholesome banker, where I basically have a 360 view of exposure to the bank. I think that's my whole objective. And for me, as the topic says, success, right? For me, my greatest, I believe my achievement, despite all this learning, is to watch my colleagues that I worked with, I had the privilege to work with, grow into their position of leadership within the organization or even outside the organization, to see them grow to become where they are today. So to me, that is a mark of success of personally, for me, personal achievement, as well as for the organization. So it's not about whether it's the scenic route or whether it's the monotonous route, ultimately it's continuous learning is very, very important. And you have to build against the foundation and the substance. It's like building a house, right? If you build a house that hasn't a strong foundation, the house will collapse. So you need to do that before you move on to the next level, Okay, hope that answers my part of the question, Zaina. Thank you again for the question.
Hans, I'd like to say something. Nina, congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much, Datuk Nora.
You're welcome. I watched your video, but I also want to congratulate the others, right? They were really, really good videos. It wasn't easy, right, to select the winner, right? But there has to be one winner. So, and you had that edge, Nina, which I observe here. Yeah, the positive energy, that's you must maintain that throughout your career, your life. Okay? So I just want to add to what John said just now, Nina. You've heard, I'm sure, this is a very common saying: when life throws you lemons, you make lemonade, right? So what that really means is it has a skew more towards not so nice, right? Experiences or or happenings. I want to hone on that, right? Even when it's a bad experience or something that, an opportunity that's given to you that you don't like, you need to ace it. Okay, so making sure that you ace it, I always say this, it's your best revenge, right? But it also is going to be the passport for a better option. Okay, so I would say that keep the when life throws you lemons, I'm going to make lemonade. I'm going to make lemonade, right? I'm going to ace it. And that has helped me in my career as well. Out of my 12 jobs that I held, 14 jobs altogether, 12, I did not apply. I did not have the qualifications. I did not have the experience. But it's about grabbing it and then acing it, grabbing it, acing it. However, I am full of battle scars. Okay, so life is not all bed of roses. So be prepared to make mistakes, to stumble, to learn the harder part of life, which I went through all of that. Pick yourself up, resilience, right? Pick yourself up, learn and move on, right? Because it's going to be, the three of us would not do our job well if we didn't prepare all of you to also say that life has disappointments. Life is going to, you'll go through some failures, but those actually build up your character. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nora, for that view. Finally, I come Dr. Mus. Anything to add on to this?
Yeah, Nina, congratulations again. Thank you very much for the question. A very quick one, as I said, be patient. It's not a Gen Z issue or something. I think when I was young, I was also impatient. I think I'm impatient now as well. But I think embrace the life, embrace the colorful journey. When you're down, try to find ways to pick up. When you're up, find ways to be humble back again. And also be aware that you're all humans as well. So like an engine as well, you can get burnt out. So be careful about that as well. So be patient, be aware. The result will be the profit and so forth. That will come, inshallah. And God willing, and I'm confident it will come, and that's how you define your success and define of how outcome you may take a look. And as I mentioned earlier, it's perspective. Some people may say, Zaina, that's not a success. You don't drive this or don't. It's okay, but when you look at it and say, hey, look, I'm happy. I do this. I'm embracing it. I think that's the best part of it, Nina. So all the very best again. Thank you very much, Hans. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mus. Thank you, Nina, for that wonderful question. And thank you so much to our panel for answering it so candidly. Nina, I hope you got the answer you were looking for.
Yeah.
And congratulations once again.
Okay, thank you so much for the answers. And I definitely will apply the advices that you gave me earlier. And thank you again so much. It's such an honor to be here with you. Hope to see you next time. Bye.
All right.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Nina. Okay. us to the sad end of this webinar. I really enjoyed it so much, and thank you so much, Dr. Nora, Dr. Mus, Dr. John, for taking time out on your Saturday to share your journeys with us and these wonderful nuggets of advice. I hope that this session has inspired some of you. I'm sure most of you will continue to be motivated to strive for success and wherever that may lead you in life. I'm also confident that the dialogue we shared here today, these indispensable and unexpected lessons, could potentially help us, some of us who are struggling with decisions in our lives. I know I've definitely benefited from this. I hope you have too. For those of you whose questions I could not answer, my apologies. But please feel free, worry not, DM us on our Instagram or feel free to reach out to anybody on LinkedIn. With that, thank you so much. Thank you once again to our panel. Wish you all a great weekend ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Once again,
Well
thank
done,
you.
Hans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you,
Well
guys.
done.
Bye. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you,
All right.
everyone. Thank you, everyone. All the best.
Good.
Thank you, Hans and